creation? What comes to your mind when you think about something new? Maybe the newest pair of shoes, maybe a new movie that is going to be released, maybe a new stage or season in your life, maybe a new job, a new career, a new relationship. But what do you think when you think of new creation? Today's the day, right? Today is the day that we celebrate and that we remember that the story didn't end on Jesus on a tree. It didn't end on Jesus being buried. That it continued in his magnificent resurrection. And today, all around the world, people are celebrating what Jesus accomplished that glorious Sunday morning, that new day. And there's so much that we can talk about if we talk about the resurrection and the Easter Sunday and the powerful witness that means. But when John wrote about it, what did he have in mind? And here's where all of the things that we've been learning and all the stories that we've told come to its culmination in the most beautiful of ways. So let's recap very quickly. John set us out with his first words, in the beginning there was the Word. And that setting was to bring you all the way back to Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, when God created everything. So what is John saying? That Jesus is here to do something new. Just like God created everything, Jesus is here to do something that beautiful. Why? Because throughout the story, we've seen that humans have rebelled and have corrupted God's good creation. So there's somebody that needs to come and restore the story that was broken and torn apart because of our rebellion. And John sets us out in this beautiful journey of Jesus fulfilling the entire Old Testament story. And again, John connects Jesus to Moses to let us know that he is the prophet, that he is the Messiah, and he shows us the signs, the festivals, and the claims. And we've seen 7 different of his claims, 7 different I am statements that he's made, showing his divinity, showing his power, showing that he is the reenactment of those stories. And 7 different times he has made a miracle to confirm those claims. 7 different times, just like the 7 days in the poem in Genesis 1. So as we've been tracking through the story, Genesis 1 and the entire Old Testament story has to be in the back of our heads. That's what John assumes. He sets us up for that. He assumes that you and I will have that in the back of our heads. So let's read John 20 as he puts that beautiful last little bit in the story to bring it all to a close. John chapter 20 from verse 1. Now, on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb early while it was still dark, and saw that the stone had been taken away from the tomb. So she ran and went to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one whom Jesus loved, and said to them, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him." So Peter went out with the other disciple, and they were running towards the tomb. Both of them, the disciple, outran Peter and reached the tomb first, and stooping to look in, he saw the linen clothes lying there, but he did not go in. Then Simon Peter came following him and went into the tomb. He saw the linen clothes there and the face cloth which had been on Jesus' head, not lying with the linen clothes, but folded up by a place in itself. Then the other disciple who had reached the tomb first also went in and saw and believed. For as yet they did not understand the scripture that he must rise from the dead. Then the disciples went back to their homes. But Mary stood weeping outside the tomb. And as she wept, she stooped to look into the tomb. And she saw 2 angels sitting where the body of Jesus had lain, one at the head, one at the feet. They said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" She said to them, "They have taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they've laid him." Having said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing. But she did not know it was Jesus. Jesus said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you seeking?" Supposing that he was the gardener, she said to him, "Sir, if you've carried him away, tell me where you've laid him, and I will take him away." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned and said to him in Aramaic, "Rabboni," which means teacher. I can't carry on this story because I picture it, and it's such a scene. Mary finds out that the body is not there, and her assumption is not that Jesus rose from the dead. Her assumption is they took the body away. And she runs to tell the disciples, and the disciples run back to the tomb, and they don't see the body, and one of them believes at least, and Mary is outside the tomb crying still. The story is focusing on Mary. I don't know if you caught that, by the way. And again, they ask her the question. These angels that she has no idea because she's weeping, they just ask her, "Why are you crying?" And she tells them, "Because I don't know where the body is." She still doesn't get it that he's raised. And then Jesus himself, she sees him with her eyes, but she can't recognize him. And she thinks that he's the gardener. That's a very interesting statement. Why is that an interesting statement? Because when you and I think of tombs, we think of a big graveyard with a bunch of tombs, one next to the other. But that's not how it worked in Jesus' time. Tombs were found in different places so that the body could be kept. And what they did is that they probably found a little cave for Jesus. And in this little cave, they rolled a stone so that nobody could come in. And if you read the other gospel accounts, the Romans are very insistent, because the Jews don't want anybody to come near to the body of Jesus, that there's guards, and they seal the tomb that nobody can get in and nobody can get out. It's almost like the leaders of the Jewish faith who say they don't believe in Jesus. They kind of do because they're afraid that the body might come out or that somebody might come and steal it. So the cave, the stone, it's probably not in a graveyard. It's probably in the middle of anywhere. And apparently, his tomb is in the middle of a garden. Why would Mary think that Jesus was a gardener? It's not like gardeners just roam around tombs and graveyards. It's because there was probably a garden all around the cave, all around the place where they put Jesus and buried him. And if you notice the first verse of chapter 20, it says, "Now the first day." What comes to your mind when you think of first day and you think of garden? If Genesis 1 is not coming to your mind, it should. Because just like John started with remembering or reminding us to go back to Genesis 1, so is John ending his story, telling us, go back to Genesis 1. But this time, don't go back to it with the mentality that something needs to happen. Go back to it with the mentality that something has been done. 7 statements for the 7 days. 7 claims for the 7 days. 7 miracles. And yet we have a new one. We have an 8th miracle. Wouldn't it make more sense that the 7th miracle is his resurrection? Kind of like putting all the knots together and being like, wow, this is such a cool story. Why 8 miracles? Why tell us about an 8th miracle? Obviously, this is the most important miracle, so we understand why this one has to be included. But why not remove another miracle earlier in the story and have the 8th one be the 7th one? Because John is trying to tell us something about the first day. This is not the first day of Genesis 1. This is the first day of the new week. The 8th day, the first day of the new week. The 8th miracle, because it's the first statement of new creation. Think about that for a second. John has spent all of this time writing to let us know about this Jesus, and he culminates with this grandiose idea that he has launched new creation. Yes, he launched the liberation movement. Yes, he turned the water into wine. And yes, he was the bread that sustains us and gives us life. And he is the life-giving source to restore us and revive us. And yes, he is the good shepherd. And he is the door. And he is the resurrecting power to bring dead back to life. All of those things are true. But this last sign, the most powerful sign, is the sign of a whole new humanity being created and started with him. The first new human. A human that is not bound up by death. A human that is perfect in morality and ethics and character, but also in the way that he lives, with a generous, kind, humble heart that is completely enthroned in all the ways possible, because he overcame death and he conquered it by dying for all of us. And that's what happened on Friday. He was enthroned on Friday, conquering over all the schemes of the devil. So there's nothing more to do. The obvious consequence when you defeat the enemy is that there's a new beginning. When the end of the story has been accomplished, there has to be a new beginning. And that's what the story in John 20 is all about. Jesus is the new beginning. Jesus is the first day of a new creation. You and I get to be part of this new humanity he has just launched on the first day, on the new day, on this 8th miracle, which is basically the first miracle and the only miracle we will need in this new humanity, where we're all restored and we are all made up like Jesus, new kinds of humans that not even death can hold us back. So as you celebrate, however you celebrate Easter, I don't know your traditions, I don't know how things go around here. I know the way that I would do it in Mexico if I was back there in the family that I grew up. But whatever traditions, whatever way you celebrate it, whatever thing that you want to do to commemorate and remember that he defeated death and that he's raised, remember one thing. You can be part of this new creation movement. A new creation that has been liberated, that has been forgiven, that has been redeemed, and that has been restored. And if we join this new humanity, this new creation movement, then we're going to partner with him and spend the rest of our lives to try to bring his restoration, this new creation, to our world every day. In whatever we do, in the way we treat others, in the way we treat creation, in the way we think, in the worldview we adopt, in whatever way you want to go about it, everything is new. Better than new shoes, better than a new movie, better than a new season or career or job or relationship. It's you being made new completely in him. New humanity has been launched. Will you join this movement? The movement Jesus started on that new first